Gun confiscation in New Mexico can happen for several reasons. Maybe the police seize your firearm during a domestic disturbance call, during an arrest, after an extreme risk protection order, or even because the gun was found during an investigation where it wasn't the focus at all. Whatever the reason, the big question is the same: how do you get your firearm back? Today on The Right Slant, we're walking through the exact steps New Mexico law requires, what deadlines matter, how ERPO cases work, and we'll look at real New Mexico case law to show what actually happens in court. In New Mexico, your firearm can be confiscated legally under several circumstances. Arrest-related seizures. If you're arrested and a firearm is on you or in the vehicle, officers take it under standard procedure. Domestic violence incidents. Even if you're not arrested, police can seize firearms when responding to a domestic violence call if they believe there's an immediate threat. Extreme risk protection orders. New Mexico passed its red flag law in 2020. Law enforcement can request a temporary order to remove firearms if someone is deemed a danger. Evidence in a criminal investigation, even if you're not the suspect. Prohibited possessor status. If a court finds you are federally or state prohibited from possessing a firearm. All of these have different legal paths for getting your firearm back, and we'll walk through them step by step. Under New Mexico statutes Section 31-1-6 and the Evidence Rule 11-604, firearms seized by police are held either as evidence or as property. The return process depends on why it was taken. White heavy checkmark if your gun was taken during an arrest, but you were not convicted. You can file a motion for return of property in the district court handling the case. The judge typically orders release once the gun is no longer needed as evidence. White heavy checkmark if your gun was seized at a domestic violence call. Police can temporarily seize firearms under officer safety authority. You must request return from the law enforcement agency's property office. If they refuse, you can file a court motion. You must not be subject to any active restraining order. White heavy checkmark if your gun was taken under an ERPO. New Mexico ERPO procedure. A temporary order lasts 10 days until a hearing. Police seize firearms immediately per court order. At the hearing, the judge decides whether to issue a 1-year ERPO. Once an ERPO expires, you can request return of firearms, but only if you are no longer prohibited. You pass a federal NICS check. The court signs a release order. White heavy checkmark if your firearm was evidence in an unrelated case. You still file a motion for return of property if police don't return it automatically after the case closes. Important, New Mexico courts require that you prove ownership, usually via a bill of sale, receipt, serial number record, or sworn affidavit. Pushpin case example number 1 State v. Rowell. Facts. Police seized several firearms from the defendant during a criminal investigation. After the charges were resolved, Rowell requested his guns back. Ruling. The New Mexico Supreme Court held that once the state no longer needs a firearm as evidence, the burden shifts to the government to prove why it should not be returned. Takeaway. If the case is over and you're not prohibited, the state must have a legally valid reason to keep your firearm. Pushpin case example number 2, in re-return of firearms to Tapia. Facts. A man's guns were seized during a domestic violence investigation. He was never charged, but police refused to return the firearms due to a temporary restraining order. Ruling. The court ruled that firearms cannot be returned until all protective orders expire and the owner passes a complete background check. Takeaway. In New Mexico, even if you're innocent, a temporary restraining order legally blocks firearm return until it expires. A few mistakes get New Mexico gun owners denied every single time. Crossmark missing court deadlines, crossmark not filing a motion for return of property, crossmark trying to pick up a firearm while under a protective order. Crossmark failure to prove ownership, crossmark not passing a NICS check, crossmark ignoring ERPO expiration timelines. Stay on top of these steps, and you dramatically increase your chance of having your firearm returned. By the way, if you're finding this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video from The Right Slant. Once the court issues a release order, here's what happens next. You take the order to the law enforcement property room. They run a final background check. You sign a release form. You pick up your firearm. New Mexico law enforcement agencies will often tell you the process takes 7 to 30 days after the court order. Longer if the firearm was evidence in a major case. And remember, the state must return your firearm once the case is over. You're legally allowed to possess a gun, and the gun is not contraband. Those standards come directly from New Mexico judicial precedent. That's your complete guide to how firearm confiscation works in New Mexico, and more importantly, how to get your firearm back legally and successfully. If you want more state-by-state guides, stick with us here at The Right Slant. Thanks for watching, and stay informed.